Hello, this is saxophonist Antonio Parker, and this is a conversation in jazz, where we are promoting jazz through telling the stories. Our guest today is the lovely jazz radio host and vocalist, Miss Gwen Redding, aka Rivablue. We ask you to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon so we can let you know when we are posting another video or going live. We also ask you to donate to our Cash App in order to support the channel and help us to produce future videos. Our Cash App is $Jazzology 101. That's $Jazzology 101. Enjoy the video. Hi, I'm saxophonist Antonio Parker, and this is a conversation in jazz. Our guest today is a distinguished figure in the jazz world, with a career spanning over 4 decades. Starting her journey in Washington, D.C., working at WCLK 90.1 FM, she later moved to Atlanta and became WCLK's Midday Jazz host. She has become a beloved radio announcer and jazz vocalist. She has also hosted jazz cruises and conducted jazz lectures for people of all ages. Please welcome the lovely Miss Gwen Redding, aka Rivablue. How you doing, Gwen?
I'm doing well.
Long time.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed, to be up close and personal with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got to go back because we go back
Way
80s.
back.
So we just talking about that.
Yes.
So I remember just hearing your voice over the airwaves.
Yes.
And I was at Howard, and you had this sultry voice and song, and you. I'm like, who is she talking to?
I'm talking to the world.
Yeah. But I always remember that I was a student at Howard University, and you were one of the premier voices in jazz radio in the DMV.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, were you hiring people to do the gigs at Tacoma Station?
I was booking people, groups, bands, and artists, jazz at Tacoma Station.
So we go back.
Yeah.
That's been a long time.
It has been a
And
very
now we
long
here.
time. Yes, because that Art Blakey, I remember booking him, and that was a great night of jazz.
Booking Art Blakey at Tacoma Station. Really?
Yes, and there was a snowstorm,
Get outta
and we were worried about whether he was going to be able to get there or not, and we waited and waited. We didn't leave, and because this was going to be a true moment in jazz. And then Art Blakey called, and he said, "I'm on my way. I'm just trying to get through this storm." And he finally walked through the door at Tacoma Station. The first person he saw me, and he just said, "You must be Gwen," and he gave me a kiss.
Really?
Yes. So I've been kissed by a boo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
by a boo. Yeah.
And that was a time when Tacoma was really playing a lot of jazz. I used to see
Yeah.
Paul Carr,
Yeah.
Tim Warfield,
Yeah.
and they had some.
And then you saw Winton come
Yeah,
through
Winton,
there, and
yeah,
Ranford, and the whole Jordan family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. And actually, at some point I started playing with Keith a lot, so I would be playing there almost every other
Keith
weekend.
Gilgo.
Keith Gilgo.
Oh,
and then,
yeah.
And then Marlon Jordan moved in town,
hmm
and I was playing with Marlon. So that's how I started getting out here and playing. But yeah, I remember
Yeah.
those great times.
Yeah.
I miss those days.
I sure do as well. But to tell you the truth, it all started when I enrolled in a jazz history class with Professor Calvin Jones.
Okay, we're gonna get to that. But I also want to remind you too. I remember I was the president of Fine Arts Student Council.
Uh-huh.
I think this was around 1992, and I put together a jazz concert called the Young Lions. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
You remember? And I called you and to ask you to host that concert.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes.
You remember who was on the hit?
Remind me.
Okay, we had a young Roy Hargrove.
Absolutely. Christian McBride.
Yes, Christian McBride.
Um,
Tim Warfield.
Yeah, I was going to say Tim Warfield was
Robert Landon, alto player.
Right.
Alan Palmer.
Gosh. Yes.
Aaron Walker.
And Aaron Walker on drums.
Yeah, I got that up on YouTube. But you hosted it. And
that's on YouTube?
Yeah. Yeah, that concert is on YouTube. And you
really?
up there hosting it. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's going to be exciting to actually see again and be and live my life over again.
Yeah, so we go back.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is a conversation in jazz.
Yeah.
Where we learn the story behind the story. Now, you've been in this jazz thing in terms of radio for over 40 years?
Since 1980.
Wow. So we're gonna go back. Yeah. But before we get to that, let's go back and learn something about you. First of all, who is Gwen Redding?
Who is Gwendolyn Redding?
Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn Redding? Who is Gwendolyn Redding?
Gwendolyn Redding is a mother, 2 ex-husbands, a grandmother, and a music lover, a jazz lover. I've been a jazz fan as far as I can remember. The first time I heard Nancy Wilson singing Sunny. And yesterday my life was filled with pain.
Really?
Yeah, I remember that song, and then I remember hearing Billie Holiday, and I guess I was listening to Temple University. They had a jazz station. They were doing jazz before were doing classical music, and we could get that station in Long Branch, New Jersey, where I grew up. And then I went to the library. The library was fortunate that our town in Long Branch is only like 2 miles this way and maybe a mile that way off the Jersey shore, right? So walked up to the library and I looked for a book. I see if there's some Billie Holiday, and I read the whole Billie Holiday story, and I was just so impressed. And I always wanted to sing "Good Morning Heartache" like Billie Holiday. I've tried it a couple of times. I don't know if I'm quite there yet.
So you got into jazz before you got exposed to jazz radio?
I got into jazz. I was like 8, 9 years old.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Okay. So you.
Yeah, and also because we had my brother, my youngest brother was born in 1970, and we had 3 albums on the turntable. And if I can remember exactly how it went, it was Mother Goose for the little baby, Mahalia Jackson for my mother, and Miles Davis' Bitches Brew.
Wow.
For Dad.
Wow.
And I was so glad to find when I came to WDCU and and learned more about jazz. I was like, I'm finally glad to know that Miles Davis had more than 1 album.
No doubt about it.
Yes.
Yeah. How did you get the moniker Rivablue?
Well, that goes back to my mother.
Goes back to who?
My mother.
Okay.
The idea that my mother called me and told me to come on home and visit, So I got in my car, I was driving a little Jaguar then. So it looks so good driving that Jaguar. And so I'm crossing, you have to cross the Delaware Bridge or something like that. So it's like I refer to it as a river.
Gotcha.
And the sky was just so beautiful. My mother said she was cooking some turkey wings. And I know how good those turkey wings are, whatever. And I try to copy her recipe.
Gotcha.
But so I'm looking forward to it. And I said, wow, she's just beyond the horizon. But I can't do the bewitched thing because that really never worked.
Gotcha.
So I know that's not true. And but back in my mind when I was a kid, I was like, so Riva is for the river, blue is for the sky. Those are the things that separated me from my mother, but yet brings us together.
Gotcha.
So in reality, it's I'll be with you wherever you go beyond the horizon.
Beautiful.
Because there's just one moon, one sun, and if we're somewhere here on the East Coast, and we look up at the sky, I can call my niece Bella, who's in New York, and say, Bella, and she introduced me to this thing about the moon. And she said, Aunt Gwen, I want you to come outside with me. I said, outside with you? It's dark out there and you want me to come out on the patio with you this time of the night? Why? She just took me by the hand. She was like 4 or 5 years old. And she took me outside and she said, Aunt Gwen, just look at the moon. Isn't it so beautiful?
Wow.
And I was like, where did she get that from? She's only a little kid, right? I said to myself, well, that's what Rivablue means. So one day I called her on the phone and I said, Bella, I want you to look at the moon. I want you to go outside and look at the moon. Or just look through the window, however you're going to say. So she looked at the moon. I said, Bella, can you draw me a picture of the moon and send it to me? And she did. So she drew the moon and she had the trees and the houses. And she had stars all around the moon.
Wow.
And then she had some houses and some trees. And I said, Bella, that is just so beautiful.
Wow.
So that's what Rivablue means. Wherever you go, I'm with you.
All right.
Beyond the horizon.
Now the people know.
Now the people know. Yeah, they do. That's what.
Now, where you originally from? I know Jersey. What part of Jersey?
No, I'm born in Washington, D.C.
Really?
D.C. General.
You born in D.C.?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Born
Did you grow up in D.C.?
We were here until 1968, the riots.
Okay.
And things were just so bad.
Wow.
And DC was on fire.
Yeah.
And my at the time 7-year-old self said, I need to go inspect what's going on around here. By myself now. I'm walking through DC, broken glass.
Because of the King riot?
Yeah. Dr.
You remember
King's
that?
passing. Of course I do. I remember every bit of it.
Wow.
And there was smoke and fire alarms and you wanted to go to the grocery store, although the Safeway was right behind our house over there off of Columbia Road in Quebec over there. And we lived in a beautiful brownstone house. And my aunt decided that she would come and collect her sister and her children and take us from our father and take us to New Jersey.
Wow. That's something. So you remember, so are you from Northwest? Did you grow up in
Northeast?
Northeast.
Northeast. When they came, so we were in Northwest at the time, and that's where we were taken from, Northeast.
So you remember like 8th Street and before when it was U Street, when it was because when I got to DC, all that stuff was boarded up.
Oh yeah.
So you remember how it looked before that?
Yes, because we used to go shopping around.
Really?
I can't name all the stores, whatever, but I remember. The reason why I remember the Beatles and I Want to Hold Your Hand, and I know I was about 3 years old. My mother had 3 children, and she had 2 in one hand and 1 in the other hand, and we were crossing the street, and I could hear the Beatles coming from somebody's car. I Want to Hold Your Hand. So it was like, okay, she's got us, and she's squeezing my hand to death. Can we just get out of this? It was a 7-Eleven, like kind of like in a little triangle there in Adams Morgan.
Gotcha.
And I know our school, Quincy Adams, was up on the hill. And so there you go. That's my story.
So you got, since I've been in DC, I done seen several iterations of DC.
How it's changing and
so I know
evolved over
for
the
you,
years.
you've seen and then coming back.
Yeah, and then I came back when I graduated from high school. I wanted to go to Howard, but my father passed away. So I decided, I'll go to UDC. It was the cheapest numbers ever. But sometimes people couldn't even pay that tuition. They needed one of those little slips so they could.
Hey, I went to UDC as well. Yeah, no doubt about it.
And so I graduated from UDC with a degree in mass media communications, print journalism, and UDC, go Firebirds.
So you said that you got exposed to jazz at an early age.
Yeah.
So what type of music, like coming up, were you listening to? Was it?
I really loved Diana Ross when we went to the drive-in movie to see Lady Sings the Blues. And I just thought she did such a wonderful job with that.
I remember as a kid that song. Do you know where you're going to? Do 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 we do.
Yeah.
Do do we do da.
Well, see, I had a personal issue with Diana Ross because when she left the Supremes, I was over my grandmother's house. And I know we're going to go kind of like back and forth right here. But I was at my grandmother's house in Freehold, New Jersey. And the people from across the street, they always played their radio real loud. And and I heard an announcement that Diana Ross was leaving the Supremes, and I was like, no. And I was like around 10 years old or
Wow.
something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, no, she can't. And I started to cry. I was like, no, she can't. She's the Supreme. She can't leave the Supremes. She can't do that.
Wow.
And so, but that brought my connection to Diana Ross and the Supremes and her doing Lady Sings the Blues and that whole story of Billie Holiday. And I'm friends with her daughter Rhonda Ross.
Wow.
We're Facebook friends and her husband. So
wow.
eh,
So were you singing coming up as a kid?
oh,
Child?
well, we had music in fourth grade.
Okay.
And at Gregory School in Long Branch, New Jersey.
Uh-huh.
I was in Miss Reimer's class.
Okay.
I must tell this little story here
Come on.
as it goes. Anyway, in fourth grade, the music teacher had us singing this song, and it goes like this. Gonna jump down, turn around, pick a bale of cotton. Jump down, turn around, pick a bale a day. Jump down, pick a bale of cotton. Jump down, oh Lordy, pick a bale of cotton. And I said, pick a bale of cotton. Hold on, wait a minute. My mother told me I was going to college, so I can't be picking no bale of cotton. I can't be in this classroom going around in a circle picking a bale of cotton. No. I went home and told my mother. I said, Mommy, they have us picking cotton in the music class. My mother immediately, school was out and over, but my mother immediately went to the school. She knew somebody had to be at that school that day. She said that is to be on the very last time that they're going to sing this song at Gregory School. And that's going to be the end of that. I think she scared the music teacher to death.
Wow.
That was the end of that. So that was my first introduction to singing.
Because I always knew you as a radio person. I said, you singing now? I'm like, okay, when did this start happening? How does
Well, I love Natalie Cole. And when she was real popular in 76 and 77, and so we had a talent show at school. Alicia Wilkerson was in the talent show as well. She was a whole lot better than me at the time. And I wanted to do Inseparable or something like that. And I was absolutely awful. I was terrible.
Really?
I could tell myself I was terrible. Yeah.
So how'd you get into singing?
How did I really? I guess, okay, so I graduated high school and I came to DC, back to DC. Well, this quick and the fast story of my father before I come back to DC. So I'm thinking I'm coming back to DC to live with my father. So I call my mother. I say, well, all these years I'm growing up, done sports and track and basketball, flag twirling and all this other stuff. So now it's time for me. I'm making my next move. And so I said, Mommy, where can I call my father or find out where he is? She said, yeah, the phone number is right over the phone. I looked at her like, you're wrong for that. Really? Really? So I call him and I talk to him. I talked to him twice. And I think the third week is when he passed away.
Wow.
Yeah. So I said, well, I'm still going to DC anyway to go to school.
Gotcha.
And the first class I enrolled in was jazz history with Professor Calvin Jones.
Beautiful.
That was
Mr.
my
Jones.
real introduction to jazz.
Okay.
And so I learned the history of jazz in that class.
Now, were you singing?
No.
No?
No. We're building up to that.
Okay, come on. Talk to me.
So this is my experience with jazz. And then I met this guy and we went out on a date and he said he was taking me to this jazz club. And I was like, okay. And when I got there, it said Blues Alley. I was like, okay, Blues Alley. And Dexter Gordon.
Wow.
I think I was like 19. Dexter Gordon. I walk into the club and Dexter Gordon walks out and I was like, oh my goodness, this is even really possible because he was like 6'5".
Yeah.
He had this voice and he played the saxophone.
Long, tall Dexter.
Oh, long, tall Dexter. And I fell in love with Dexter Gordon right then and there.
Wow.
And the whole jazz thing just took me
Gotcha.
away.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, I felt like I want to be a jazz singer. So I spent a lot of time rehearsing in hallways and bathrooms and showers and,
So did you study, or were you studying with anyone? Were you working with anyone?
Well, I tried with Professor Calvin Jones
Okay.
at Katia Stitt,
Uh-huh.
who you know well from
Uh-huh.
WPFW,
Yeah.
and Sweet Honey in the Rock as
Yeah.
their
Mhm.
manager. We were we wanted to be a part of the jazz ensemble,
Gotcha.
but Calvin Jones was so rough on us. We couldn't. We walked away. We walked away. I enrolled in a piano class, and I was like, I can't do this math. For me, I was like, and so I got out of that. But at the same time, in 1980, I was introduced to the radio station at UDC that was run by the students.
Okay.
So that was WUDC.
Okay.
And so I was going to a math class. The math class didn't meet that day. The teacher didn't show up, whatever. And so I was walking down the hall, and this guy really was running down the hall, and he basically ran into me, and then he stopped. And he looked at me and said, "Do you think you can come into this radio station? Do you have any time? What are you doing?" I said, "I'm not doing anything." He said, "Well, come with me." He didn't even know my name. He didn't know introduction or nothing. But his name was Harold, and we eventually find out. And I told him what my name. So he goes into the studio. He brings me into the studio, and I see all these records on the wall and carts, machines, because that's what they used that time during commercials and stuff. And he said, "Well, okay, so this is the radio station. We go into the studio, and this is the mic. This is the mic. Here are 2 turntables with records. Now, I'm sure you know how to put a needle on a record. You know that part. All right? So I'm going to show you the other part. These are the pots, because at the time you had to turn the pots, turn them.
Wow.
And yeah. And then you turn on the mic right here. This is how you turn on the microphone. This is the microphone. And you can say whatever you want to say about the music. And then after that, you turn it off and you hit the record as soon as you finish talking. And then you make sure you turn off the microphone.
So what made him choose you?
God chose me.
Oh, I love it. Come on, talk to me.
It was a meeting of the souls, man.
Really?
It was nothing else other than that.
So it just happened like that.
It happened just like that.
Now, what were you majoring in? I mean, what was your focus?
Nursing.
You was going to be.
I was going to be a registered nurse.
Wow.
I was going into nursing like my mother, and my sister became the registered nurse.
Wow.
My sister Jackie is the registered nurse.
So WDCU FM.
Mm-hmm.
Did they change Did they change the name to Jazz 90, or
they changed it to 90.1.
90.1.
90.1. Yeah. I really don't remember the numbers for WUDC. I really don't remember.
Okay.
But we became WDCU in 1982. So when myself, Earl Stoddard, Greg Bagley, no, he was part of the UDC team, the student-run station, and a few of us others who came from the UDC station, and they had us come over to WDCU.
Okay.
So we were the students that helped start it.
So you started that jazz program?
Yes. We started, and we only had, the general manager at the time was Godwin Oyewole from Nigeria, but he was a very intelligent, brilliant man. And after his passing, I actually read his entire bio, and I was like, wow, I didn't know he was all of that. Yeah. I just knew he was brilliant, and then became a lawyer, but we'll get into that later on. But so we started the station with 30 albums, only 30 albums.
Wow.
Yeah.
And whose idea was it to start a jazz? Was that the
It
university?
had to be the university.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know this.
And I don't even know how they chose Godwin Oyewole for the gig,
Yeah.
but I know he had been doing some radio at another
Yeah.
station, and he
Yeah.
was affiliated with a lot of African jazz musicians as well.
Yeah. So when I got in town
hmm
in 1987, it was the two stations. Was it 90.1 or
Uh-huh.
WDCU
WDCU.
and then WPFW?
Right.
Now, did y'all have a competition? Was there a kind of competition going on? No, well, y'all were just doing your thing. And
I
they
never felt like there was any competition. As a
Okay.
matter of fact, I would call them up sometimes and ask, could I help them with their fundraiser or
Oh, got you.
something?
Okay, so
And
it's all a community thing. We all in this together.
well, yes,
Yeah,
I
gotcha.
felt it was because I didn't feel like there was they were challenging me as a radio producer and
Yeah,
a radio announcer.
yeah.
So
So you learned
yeah.
on the job by on
On
the
the
job.
job training. So from UDC, and I'll tell you the record they had at UDC, well, at WUDC,
Uh-huh.
was and bless you, Frankie Beverly. But you were on the turntable, and I know you just passed away, and I love you dearly. And your spirit lives. You're only here for a fleeting moment, but the music will last you forever.
Mm,
But I took off that Frankie Beverly album in Mays,
mhm.
and I put it to the side, and I put on Dexter Gordon. So the first record I ever played on radio was Dexter Gordon
Wow.
because I had saw him at Blues Alley,
Yeah. Wow.
and I knew he was the real thing.
Now, was there a particular learning curve? Like, was it? Did you get better at it over time, or how?
I'm going to give the glory to Mr. Marshall Keys.
Come on, talk to us.
Yes.
Okay.
Marshall Keys, I was playing something, and I guess he was like, that's not it. That's not it. I need to show you something.
Uh-huh.
So Marshall Keys, I didn't know Marshall Keys from anywhere,
Uh-huh.
but Marshall Keys called me up, and he said, I would like to introduce you to some more jazz. And I went over his house,
Uh-huh.
and he had all of these wonderful albums, and he introduced me to Cannonball Adderley, Coltrane, Miles. He spread the albums out. He
Wow.
put the albums on the turntable, and I
Wow.
listened. So I'm going to give the credit to
Good. That's
Marshall
no doubt.
Keys.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, did you love it from the giddy up?
From the start, I heard me some Clifford Brown, and I was like, glory be. Can't be anything more sweeter than
Yeah.
Brownie.
Now,
And then I read his story, and then I was,
So-
became so passionate about
and
him.
outside of playing the music, you got to interview some great artists.
Oh.
I remember hearing. Come on, tell the people some of the artists you done interviewed. Just in DC, we're gonna start in DC. We in DC now. I know it's, but give us throw some names. Name drop.
Everybody. And then some people just voluntarily told me some of their stories when
Yeah.
I was on the SS Norway on those jazz cruises, sitting next to Anita O'Day. I was like,
Yeah.
is she really telling me her whole life story while she's sitting here smoking a cigarette? She's sitting there smoking a cigarette, having a drink, and she's telling me her whole life story. But some of the people who I've interviewed, of course, Wynton, Branford, Harry Connick, Max Roach,
Wow.
Frank Morgan. That was one of the interviews that I did that I had to stop. And I said, went to Godwin Oyewole, and I said, can we actually have this conversation about his drug problem and him dealing with heroin and trying to kick the habit and all that? He said, that's his story.
Wow.
Roll with it.
Wow.
And we did. And it was the most truth-telling story that you would ever want to hear. And he got deep into it and talked about, getting off of the drugs
Mm-hmm.
and taking the morphine or whatever he had to take to relieve the pain and all that other stuff. So, and it was a nice conversation. It didn't seem like he was, needed a fix or anything. He was over that part of his life, and he lived to be like 82, 83.
Yeah, I remember that time.
And all
And
that.
I remember
But
playing the one step. Yeah.
he was at, I'm going to tell the truth, he was at the Mid-Atlantic Jazz Festival. I think then it was still the East Coast
Mm-hmm.
Festival with Ronnie Wells. And he came to me, he said, "Can you find me some marijuana?"
For
I
real?
said, "Why are you asking me?" I was like, "Frank, well, maybe I'll look around, but
Yeah.
when I saw him coming towards me again, I was like, I try and walk the other way.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get into
Yeah,
any trouble.
yeah.
Pass no drugs around for you, Frank Morgan."
Wow.
Yeah, but I had some great
See,
stories. Benny Carter.
you interviewed Benny Carter? Wow.
Benny Carter, that was great. That was a wonderful opportunity to interview
Do you
Benny
ever
Carter.
sit back and like process all this stuff, or do you just keep moving on forward? Because
No, I do. It comes back to
yeah,
me of all the people that I've met in my
yeah.
life and I've interviewed and
Joe
talked to.
Williams.
Oh, wow. My good friend.
Yeah.
Good friend.
Wow.
Joe Williams. Joe Williams and I on the SS Norway. So I have been working on, now I have been starting to work on singing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know that they had a passenger talent show. So a Russian pianist by the name of Alex, and I can't say his last name right now because I might mess it up. And anyway, we're still friends to this day on Facebook. And so we met, and I asked him if he could play Lush Life for me. That's what I wanted to sing during the passenger talent show. So he was like, "Yeah." So we worked on it. So the passenger, the cruise is like 8 days. So 8 days, 7 nights, 8 days, because you leave on that 8th day. And so when the passenger talent show came up, after Alex and I have worked on this song for days, the manager of the entertainment section said that, well, he can't play for you because he's not allowed to play for the passengers during this jazz cruise. So I was like, well, who at this time is going to play for me at this particular moment? Who do they introduce me to? Eddie Higgins.
Who?
Eddie Higgins. Do you know who Eddie Higgins was?
Who's Eddie Higgins?
Sarah Vaughan's piano player.
Wow.
I said, of all people, Sarah Vaughan's piano player, and I want to sing Lush Life. Now, I know I've seen him play with Sarah Vaughan at Blues Alley and
You've
all
seen
that.
Sarah Vaughan?
Oh, yeah. I've seen Sarah Vaughan. We'll get to that too. But and so I was like, okay. So I went out there. I was just a little shaky. That right leg was like moving. I was like, okay, calm down, please. So, I start the song. And but before that, I told Joe Williams, I said, Joe, I went into his room while he was being, these are all truthful stories now. He had a towel over him, partially covered, but Miss Rosemary was giving him a massage and some oil, and he was just glistening all over the place. He was tall and muscular and everything. And he turned his head and looked at me, and I said, Joe, I'm going to sing Lush Life during the passenger talent show. Will you come, please? And he was like, girl, get out of here. No, I don't know. I don't know. I'm enjoying this here massage right now, but I don't know. And so I was like, well, okay. Well, I'll see you later then. I hope to see you later. And so I'm doing, I used to visit all the very gay places. And then I'm trying to get over my leg shaking, and I feel an arm around my shoulder, and I was like, Joe. He said, okay, baby, let's just do this together.
Wow.
So it was a beautiful duet, one of the most great memories of my life.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful.
And so we finished Lush Life together, and then he said, okay, so now let me just go ahead and do the song for them and show them how it's done. And I was like, Joe. So he sang Lush Life the whole song.
Did he have those blue patent leather suede shoes on?
Well, whatever he had on, he was looking good, as always to the T.
Yeah.
Yes, crisp everything, shirt, tie, and yeah.
Now you said you met
Sarah Vaughan.
Sarah Vaughan?
Yeah. The first time I met her, actually came in contact with her. I had seen her before at Blues Alley, but the first time I actually physically came in contact with her, I was waiting for her. No, actually, the first time I met her, we were walking around the ship on the SS Norway. That was the jazz star of stars. All the people who were on this jazz cruise, Dizzy Gillespie, Joe Williams, and the list, like I said, Anita O'Day. The list goes on and on. And Toshiko Akiyoshi, Lou Tabakin, Sarah Vaughan. And so Sarah Vaughan was walking around, and I don't know how we just bumped into each other. And she said, "Baby, do you think you can help me find my cabin?" I was like, gladly. I have no idea where her cabin was located, but I'm with Sarah Vaughan, so that's my moment, right?
Wow. No doubt.
And so later on that night, she's singing, and when I say at night, that means after midnight. She's supposed to be singing during the jam session. So I got on my nice little outfit, my dress and everything, and I'm all ready to hang out with Sarah Vaughan, and all the jazz musicians were there. So this one played and that one played, and an hour passed by and another hour passed by, and it was 2 and it was 3, and I'm like, I know I have a lot to do tomorrow, the next day, because I'm going around interviewing all of these musicians. And Sarah didn't show up, but I found out later on she did show up. She came out around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
That was her time, her schedule. So I was like, I missed that moment.
Wow.
And but I did have an interaction again with her at Blues Alley. And I wasn't going to go see her that night. And I've seen her so many times. I said, I can sit this one out. And then I changed my mind. I said, no, I'm going to see her anyway. So I got all dressed up so I could sit right up front and enjoy Sarah Vaughan. And of course, as usual, I was moved. Having met Sir Jones and all these great Misty and all these great jazz standard songs that she was singing, and how she was singing them, and her movement and the way she moved and how she breathed and all of that.
Wow.
And even the sweat, how you wipe the sweat off your brow, because you sweat like it's everywhere, right? Perspiration. And after she finished, and everyone said their good nights, she was walking up the staircase at Blues Alley, and I ran behind her. I was like, I just had to go. I just wanted to thank her to her face and tell her thank you.
Wow.
Not wave over like that or anything like that. So I'm there. I've reached the top of the stairs, and she's at the top of the stairs. And I'm just like, Sarah Vaughan, I just want to thank you for the music and the songs. And then the tears came.
Oh, boy.
I'm telling you, I was just when the snot and everything started. I'm like, you were there. I was there, trying to get, because that was so passionate, so driven, and right. And she's like, she took me and she held me and she hugged me and she said, "Baby, everything's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be all right. Everything's gonna be good." And she dies 3 months later.
Wow.
That was a heartbreak.
That
was heartbreaking.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So. What
about Shirley Horn?
Shirley Horn was my neighbor.
That was your neighbor?
Yes, she lived. We live on 22nd Street, and she lives around the corner. I think it's like 18th and Monroe in that area. I could walk around the corner, right?
Yeah.
So, and when I found that out, I'm coming over Shirley's house when I get a chance to, or when she's available. And she loved watching her stories, and she loved blue crabs.
Blue crabs?
Blue crabs. Who doesn't love? Everybody loves blue crabs, especially in D.C. And you go down to the wharf, when the wharf was real thriving as it was, as we know it, how it used to be. And you could take your pick of what you wanted and what fish and what size. And oh, that's right, I owe somebody a big red snapper. I want to see if I can get one and freeze it and take it back to Atlanta. But anyway, so I would go down to the wharf, get us some blue crabs and bring them back. And she said, well, baby, if I don't answer the door, just leave them on the porch for me. And I'll get them. Sometimes I'd get them uncooked, and she would have to cook them. And I she knew by the knock that I was there.
Yeah.
And she had to finish up whatever she was doing. She could have been playing the piano. She could have been watching her stories.
Yeah. Wow.
That was a big part of her life, too.
And, y'all had like a personal kind of relationship.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So Shirley and I, this one particular night, she decided she had this, I don't know if it was a Cadillac or a Lincoln, or I know it was a big black car. And she drove us to Pierre Spray's Maple Shade studio.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I was in there and she was there. I remember that. Yeah.
Yes.
Pierre.
So this particular night, she's playing piano and I'm listening to her and I'm right there at the piano. I mean, I'm right there because this is going on and on. She's drinking, she's smoking, she's drinking, she's playing, she's smoking, she's drinking, another song after another song after another song. Before I know it, I don't fall asleep underneath the piano. Seriously, I was underneath. When I woke up, I was underneath the piano.
Really?
And I looked up, and she was still playing, and she was still smoking, and she was still drinking. And I said, Shirley, when are we going home?
Yeah.
She said, girl, before the stories come on. So that means we had to stick it out. I think we finally left around 10:30 in the morning.
Wow.
And that was that was a great experience. In addition to, the East Coast Jazz Festival and her with her friends and Etta Jones and Ronnie Wells and and Ernie. I was thinking his Ernie. It'll come to me in a minute.
Yeah.
But the big, tall jazz blues singer.
Yeah.
Ernie Andrews.
Okay, yep,
Yeah, that's all I had to say. The blues singer, Ernie Andrews, and we were at the East Coast Jazz Festival. I said, I'm looking for Ronnie Wells, and I think I know where I can find her in the smoking room. The smoking room.
That was back in the day with you in the clubs, you could smoke.
No, but this was in the hotel.
Wow. Yeah.
And they had a smoking room.
Okay.
I went into the smoking room and I couldn't see anybody because of the smoke in the room. Maybe that's how Shaka Khan came up with that song, whoever smoking room. The smoking room, you couldn't see anybody in there. Yeah. I'm like, Ronnie Wells, where are you? And then I said, I got to get out of here. I can't breathe.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So
you talking about? I remember we used to go to the Twins.
Yeah.
And on Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And those were times when you would go when you smell like a cigarette butt coming out.
Oh,
I'm glad they took that.
There's still some spots where you go to, especially in Atlanta, where where they're smoking and doing the hookah and all that other stuff. I'm like, the hookah, y'all just don't know that you're killing yourself.
Yeah.
You're inhaling this thing on a piece of coal with some fire burning, and you're taking it into your lungs.
No doubt.
That's not good.
Yeah. Yeah. But when you came, and this is a rhetorical question, but do you recall that period, what I call the Young Lions period, where it was the 80s after Winton, and then in the 80s, then Roy Hargrove and Christian McBride and Jody
I was hanging out with those cats.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And you would introduce them and what do you remember about that period?
I know that one time when Roy was here here. I gotta remember where I am. When Roy was here and we all went out to hang out. It was a good jazz set, and we went out. I don't know if it was after Blues Alley or after your thing or what, but it was probably a Blues Alley gig. And so we went over to Twins because Twins was open late, and I love Ethiopian food, and they showed me how to surely cook the food, prepare it. But anyway, so I had on a green dress that had kind of like, it was double-breasted buttons, gold buttons going there. And Roy just decided that he wanted to make fun at me because he said, "You're over there looking like Janet Jackson." I was like, what's wrong with, something wrong with my dress? It wasn't even about music or talking about music. We were just out having fun.
Yeah.
And just
Wasn't he a special
enjoying.
talent?
He was.
Yeah, he was.
He was.
He was. Even my man McBride, they were just some special cats.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a great time. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It seemed like the clubs and was thriving.
We
like,
would just go anywhere and just hang out all night long. And
it was like
and
DC had all these different personalities.
And
you
we
remember
were-
some of the people in DC? This is the first
Mary
one I'm doing.
Jefferson.
Mary Jefferson, yeah. Remember
Yeah.
Nat? Don't forget
Me-
the blues Turner.
Yeah.
Who were some
Of
other people that
course.
we? Keita Betts.
Keita Betts, the guitarist.
Yeah.
He owned.
You remember Bobby Sanchez?
Of course. Yes.
Yeah, all these cats. Ted Afontes,
Yes.
Reuben Brown,
Of course.
Keita Betts.
Keita Betts.
Yes.
Keita Betts and I. Well, he taught me a lesson about how to deal with children, age 5, kindergarten. And we did a lecture together with some kindergarten.
Really?
Yeah. And I thought I knew something, but I really didn't know anything. But I learned from Keita Betts how to approach it, how to approach dealing and handling children, how to give a lecture properly and as an intelligent person and talk about jazz. Meanwhile, these kids over here, they paying attention, they're not paying attention. You're handling them, you can't handle them. It's like, hey, you over there, come over here. I want you to come sit.
Yeah.
But that was one of the most memorable experiences I had with Keita Betts, was this kindergarten class and giving a lecture on jazz.
Wow.
And of course, he had his bass and he was doing this thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give you these names to see if you remember.
Let me see.
Earl Banks.
Yes.
Let him play.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Jamal Muhammad.
Yes.
Yes. Buck Hill. I know.
Oh, of course. Buck
Andrew
Hill.
White.
Buck Hill delivered the mail and he delivered the jazz.
No doubt. Andrew White.
Andrew N.S. White III. Yes, of course, he invited me over his house with his wife. She was from Germany, and she was a beautiful lady, beautiful soul. And Andrew introduced me to the transcribing of John Coltrane. Why me? Why am I?
Why not you?
What? Hey, yeah. So he took out. No, he didn't have to take it out because it was on. Some of it was on the thing. You know,
Yeah.
what you call it? The stand. The music stand. And he was. I felt like I was just surrounded by music everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Did you go in the basement?
That's where I was.
So you saw the wall? You saw the wall?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We ain't gonna talk about the wall, but
and I was like, I was like, all of this music and all this writing and all of these notes and stuff, and I was like, but I wish I could do it all over again.
Oh yeah, it was a special
years
time.
later, and having a better understanding
no
of
doubt.
jazz and music and notes and chords and flatted fifths and whatever y'all talk about when you talk about trying to dissect this music.
What about Charlie Hampton?
Yes.
You remember Charlie Hampton?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Don Darmon.
I remember the name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
He was Don Darmon.
Okay. Yes, I do, because he had something about his hair.
Yeah.
Something I remember that was the hair thing.
Funny guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then there was George the drummer.
Oh, was that George Jones?
He was bald head. I think he was bow-legged, but he was a great drummer.
Okay.
And as old as he was, he had a little crush on me.
Really?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Ronnie, you mentioned Ronnie Wells.
Mm-hmm.
Ron Ellison.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, without
Ellison.
Ronnie Wells, I don't think there would be a me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she had the jazz workshop.
Oh, so did you see? Come on, we can't talk about you. Were you a part of the
Part
jazz
of my
workshop?
reason for wanting to sing at Tacoma Station on tomorrow night, Sunday, September
Well, let's give some love to
21st,
Ronnie.
is because Ronnie Wells.
Who was Ronnie? Tell the people who Ronnie Wells was.
Ronnie Wells was a wonderful and incredible jazz singer who felt like she was the mother for us when we stepped into her studio, when we went to her house.
Beautiful.
Her house was our home.
So
All
you went
right.
she had jazz
She had
vocal
the jazz
workshops, right?
workshop,
Yeah.
jazz vocal workshop at her house. And then her husband, Ron, we started off with you had to, okay, we all introduced ourselves and what we were about, what we wanted to get out of this jazz workshop to be a better singer or better performer. Or maybe it had something to do with getting the jitters and getting rid of the jitters and being able to stand in front of an
Yeah.
audience and sing.
Yeah.
And so Ronnie, the first thing she would say is, choose a song that you would like to sing. And it could be by any performer that you enjoy singing, and you could bring that music of that person in and play the song. So you play the song, and then after you listen to the song and the words of the song, that's what's important. You listen to the song and you learn the words of the song so you can and be able to interpret the song based on the words that you're listening to.
No doubt.
So that's what we did. That's how we started off. So all you did was just write down some songs that you like. Then we go back and we listen to the records as a group.
Wow.
There were about usually 10 of us in the group.
And she and her husband, Ron Elliston, they started the East Coast Jazz Festival.
That is very true.
And I was on the very first festival. I was on the very first one, and which eventually became
the Mid-Atlantic
Jazz Festival by Paul Carr and his wife. So it's a lot of history.
Yeah. So here's how we grew out of that jazz workshop. So then after we think we know something about the song, now we join Ron and we work through the music as he and choose a key. And work through the music, and it's your own interpretation of how you want to sing the song. But they want you to follow how it's written first before you can go into the art of improvisation.
So that was a platform where you actually started developing your sing. Okay.
Yes.
That makes sense now. Okay.
So I spent a couple of years with Ronnie.
Okay.
Studying with Ronnie, and it worked because. Afterwards, when One Step Down was still here, we went over to One Step Down, and we performed at One Step Down.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So each one of us in the group would perform about two or three songs of our choice.
Beautiful.
And I did. I remember doing "It Ain't Necessarily So," and my sister's favorite song, my sister Jackie. She loves for me to sing Young and Foolish.
Okay.
Because we ran track together. We started out running track together, and she just knew that she had to be better than me. So
gotcha.
That's why she still holds records at our high school in Long Branch, New Jersey.
Wow.
Because she had to work it out. But she's one of the best registered nurses that I know on planet Earth. Better than some doctors as well. She's very intelligent. Beautiful. So shout out to Jackie.
Few more names. Butch Warren.
Oh, let me tell you. The first time, he's tall, handsome. The bass, it all went together. And his relatives actually live 2 doors down from me, the Tatums. And Butch Warren was playing Bye Bye Blackbird. Pack up all your kids and woes. He was playing the bass, and then he was dancing with the bass while playing Bye Bye Blackbird. And I was like, I like that.
Yeah.
And I like the song.
Yeah.
So I sing Bye Bye Blackbird. That's one of the songs I sing.
Yeah. Wow.
And I sing that in tribute to Butch Warren because of the way he did it. I was like, and sometimes you have to but you know what? It's different, especially when you're doing jam sessions and stuff like that. And I love doing jam sessions. And it's different with every musician that you sing with, because sometimes you're stepping on a stage with people that you have never, ever, they don't even know who you are.
That's right.
And you're saying, well, and it's always like, well, what key are you going to sing it in? And one mistake I'll never, ever make again in my life.
Uh-huh.
Whatever key you choose.
Oh, you did that?
That was a dumb
Oh,
move.
you did that before?
One
Yeah,
time and one time only.
Yeah.
And I was being bold. I thought I
Yeah.
was stepping out. I thought I knew something.
Yeah.
And I was like, I thought I saw Sarah Vaughan do it or Betty Carter or something.
Yeah.
Just count it off. Just like, just count it off.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, and pack up all my
Yeah.
kids and wolves. Yeah, singing bye, blackbirds. I was like, I could do that. And like, I made that mistake one time, but it wasn't on Bye Bye Blackbird. It was on something else.
Gotcha.
And I was like, oh Lord, where am I?
One more name, Webster Young.
Yes, Webster Young,
yeah,
trumpeter. Webster Young,
Yeah.
yes.
What are some of the clubs that was around when back in the time when you were coming up? That you mentioned a club that was everybody talks about. I wasn't here yet. You mentioned it earlier when we were talking.
Les Nices. Les Nices was almost like a training ground for another school of jazz with the musicians that were playing there and coming in for the jam session.
Yeah.
You had Michael Beard, and these are my 3 favorites.
Uh-huh.
I had some other favorites too, but Michael Bearden, as we know, who is the music director for the Stars, and he has worked with them all, and now he is with from Michael Jackson after his passing. He is with Lady Gaga, and we see him on a lot of the awards programs as well. And so Michael Bearden, Mark Carey, and Raymond Angray.
Okay.
And so all 3 of them told me during different occasions, I'm leaving at DC and going to New York. I'm like, Michael, really? Yeah. He's like, yeah, I'm leaving. I'm telling you, I'm leaving, and I'm going to New York. I was like, okay. So next thing I know, he's at Blues Alley playing with Phyllis Hyman.
Wow.
But then he's telling me a story about how Phyllis Hyman and Angie Bofield were getting into it because they both wanted Michael Bearden.
Wow.
Yeah, and so he was one of the more sought after musicians, pianists at the time, and you see where he is to this day. And but I still say, Michael, I need to pull out an album from our library and play you.
Gotcha. No doubt.
You've done everybody else. Now it's time for you to do you.
Yeah.
Now there's Mark Carey. Mark Carey, we're in the music school that he has been studying with for years, and we lived in the same neighborhood. We lived basically around the corner from each other on the same street. And he said he was going over to the school to work on some songs, and he asked me if I wanted to go with him, or I just said, "Could I go with you?" It was like, "Yeah, okay." So this is the dead of winter.
Yeah.
And so we go to the school. We all had to just go across New Hampshire Highway and go to school. We're working on some songs, and I'm doing, I think, Autumn Leaves or Foggy Day or one of those songs. And at that time he said, and then he tells me he's moving to New York. I'm like, you are in a jazz studies program with Professor Calvin Jones, and you can just, and you're there, and we need you. You just can't walk away from that. And he said, I am. I said, well, but don't you finish the program? He said, I have to leave and go to New York. I said, but you don't even know this song that I'm trying to sing right now. So how are you going to go and just leave here and go to New York? Next thing I know, he's playing with Betty Carter. And on albums, on our recordings. I'm now playing Mark Carey on the radio.
That's how it works.
That's how it works. And then comes Ray Angray. I felt like he is my son.
Yeah.
And he's such a sweet, kind, young gentleman, so handsome and tall, and it plays so well. And we're at Twins Lounge. And he was leaning at the bar, and I'm leaning at the bar. And he tells me, I'm leaving for New York. And I was like, not you. I'm like, you're leaving for New York also. Okay. All right, Raymond. But at least you have graduated from college, from Howard University. You've done your job. Well done. Job well done. You can, I guess I have to let you go.
Yeah.
Can't keep you there.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, He's everywhere.
Yeah.
And he's doing the Tonight Show.
Yeah, Roots with the Roots.
Yeah, yeah. And I talked to him recently on the
Uh,
phone because somebody was looking for him to write an article on him. And people call me to find out where people are because I have
gotcha.
all their phone
Yeah.
numbers, right? And so he was like, I'm trying to get in touch with Raymond Angry. And I said, okay, I have his number. I'll send it to you. And then I called Raymond and I say, tell him to be expecting this call. Right? And he's like, okay, well, I have to go because I think he was on whatever late show he's on. I can't remember them all. I think it's Jimmy Fallon. Is it Jimmy Fallon?
Jimmy
right?
Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon. So that's what he was recording.
Yeah.
And but I remember.
That's my dude right there, man.
And then WCLK does the Jazz Music Awards. Mm-hmm. It's a big show. Mm-hmm. And Dee Dee Bridgewater and Delroy, his last name. I'm old enough to forget a few things here and there.
It's all good. It's all good.
And who is one of the premier pianists and playing the organ for the Jazz Music Awards, but the one and only Raymond Angry. And I am, and at that particular day and that time, was so proud of him.
Yeah. You know, I saw Raymond when he came in Howard. He was a hard worker, and we lived together about 4 or 5 years in the same house. And he was just hard working, and he just cat that you saw, he wanted it, you know.
Yeah.
And so they made the right choice.
Yeah. So yes, they have. And he has that personality. I think what's most important is his personality.
Yeah.
And his ability to communicate musically with people.
Oh, no doubt.
And he's an all around, to me, an all around nice guy.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I want to go back. I need to know. See, let me go get my notes right here.
Okay.
Do you remember when Jazz 90.1 went off the air? I remember the song that was played. I remember going off on George Coleman solo. I think he was playing with Miles Davis. They were fading off. They were playing Milestones or something. And I just remember it fading off the station. It was like, this is the last, you know. Do you remember that?
I didn't want to remember that.
Really?
Yeah, so I cannot recall that moment because it was such a traumatic time
what
for
happened?
me. The university, I don't know, it had something to do with grants that we were supposed to get so that we could have the money so that we can continue to be on the campus of the University of the District of Columbia. Or that the university was in need of $14.2 million. Mm-hmm. I mean, we started that radio station with 30 albums, I said. Yeah. And now we have this.
It became an institution.
And exactly. And we did so much for the community.
Yeah.
I couldn't see how they could possibly sell the radio station, but it happened, and we were purchased by C-SPAN.
Wow. And
they took over as of course, talk show.
Yeah. Wow. That was a huge loss.
It was very much so. And DC has not recuperated from from that.
You know what? And I'm gonna tell you, and that probably was in the mid-90s, but it was ironically after that, or while that was going on, they were cutting jazz programming around the country at certain in Philly. Mm-hmm. They were cutting
what they did with Temple University.
Yeah, it used to be all day jazz. Mm-hmm. They cut back on the jazz. PFW cut back on the jazz.
Yeah.
They were the major jazz labels were cutting the jazz division.
Yeah. Well, even when I came to WCLK, mm-hmm. They had a lot more announcers at the station.
Wow.
But they must have cut at least half the staff.
Wow.
And I was surprised that I was even selected to stay with the radio station, but because it was between me and another woman who were auditioning for the job.
Okay.
And recommended by George V. Johnson Jr. But
Jazz,
you
jazz,
know where I
jazz.
was when I got the phone call.
Wow.
I
We're
was
gonna
sitting
talk
out.
about that too. We're gonna go deep into that. So that was traumatic for you?
Yes, it was. It
Um,
was. It was.
yeah,
It was.
and
It was
because you know
my
what?
that was me growing into my adult life.
Yeah.
I mean, I at 20 years old,
Yeah.
starting with the UDC
Yeah.
station, and then working and growing with Faune
Yeah.
and Ernest White,
Whitmore
Tim
John.
Masters, Whitmore John,
Yeah.
who I learned so
Yeah.
much from as well,
Yeah.
and the other announcers there.
Y'all were like integral parts of the community, in the jazz community. It was like that. It just like overnight.
And
Just
I thought we were doing well as far as what we were doing,
Yeah.
because we were raising money. We knew we had to raise the money during the fundraisers so that we can have a successful campaign and to remain on the campus. And then I guess we did so well that they said, well, we need $14.2 million. So we have something we can sell. But they didn't realize what they were selling away.
Wow.
They could have used UDC
Oh, my God.
radio
to
to
bring
make more
students.
money.
Oh my God.
And educate
How do you-
educate
That was
students as
whoever
well.
was I don't know who the president was, but
I don't want to read.
yeah,
I can't.
that was the. Oh man.
But they don't realize that they had. That's like money in your hands,
Yeah.
because the you can raise as much money as you want. The radio station could be your voice
Yeah.
to reach out to the community to get money,
Yeah.
to get grants.
Yeah. Yeah.
To have other people from the community, law officers, doctors, whatever, come in,
Yeah.
bring you money, and would contribute money
Yeah.
to the university because we're there. And that's what happens at WCLK.
Well, so we got our memory. Let me ask you this: do they archive, like we were talking about that? Do you think that the shows that you've done is archived somewhere?
Well, we need to check the Felix Grant archives.
Because that, to me, since we have the internet, you can relive that stuff.
Yes, you can.
You know,
Yes, you
that's
can.
something to think about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Well-
I remember hearing some great interviews and great music.
Mhm.
You know, yeah. Wow.
Well, I'm with the new generation now, so we have
Yeah.
the interviews. They're now saved on the computer,
yeah.
and
Gotcha.
so they are there. And then we have YouTube when we
Yeah.
do
You
performances.
can do live.
There,
Yeah.
there
Yeah,
you are. We
gotcha.
go live, or when I'm working with the Velvet Note,
Gotcha.
and I host some of their jam sessions, and I also celebrated my birthday on stage there and had a great time.
Yeah. In 2001,
Huh?
you decided to leave DC, the DC area, and you ended up landing in Atlanta.
Mm.
What made you want to leave DC?
I was, sometimes we go through changes in our life,
Okay.
and dealing with people, and
Mhm.
being married, and having
Gotcha.
children,
Gotcha.
and
You needed,
there
you
were
needed a change.
I needed a change for a minute, and I
Yeah.
thought it was only going to be for a minute. And so when I got into my little car, and me and a friend named Bacardi,
Mhm.
so we drove to Atlanta, and I got there, and I told my uncle, my mother's brother, Uncle Clifford, that I was going to New Orleans,
Mhm.
and
So you intentionally were planning on going to New Orleans?
yeah, that was supposed to be my
Okay.
destination.
Okay.
So I always say that my uncle saved me from going to New Orleans and dealing with Hurricane Katrina,
Oh
but I
wow.
couldn't save him from cancer.
Oh wow. That's heavy.
how-
Wow.
yeah.
So what detoured you from New Orleans to Atlanta? What was that? What
I
happened?
met a family of people, the Ogletrees, and the Jones family.
Mhm.
When I came off of 285 and landed on Camilton Road,
Mhm.
that's basically still where I am.
Really? Wow.
Yes, I had no intentions of going inside this little club. Well, yeah, I was looking for some food. I was hungry.
Uh-huh.
And so I ended up going into Club 291 on Camilton Road, and they were selling fish,
Mhm.
and they were having a Wednesday evening set called
Gotcha.
Wednesday Wind Down. That
Mm-hmm.
was the first time I heard of Wednesday Wind Down. They were
Mm-hmm.
doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I met some people, some really nice people in there, in addition to, living with my uncle and his wife and Aunt Sharon. And so I got comfortable.
Wow.
I got comfortable. The club gave me a job.
Oh, wow.
Well, they weren't the first ones to give me a job. It was the people next door who gave me a job.
Mm-hmm.
And I showed them how to make money.
Gotcha.
And one night, I guess it was a club called Marco's.
Mm-hmm.
And I did so well. So they hand you a little start off pack,
Mm-hmm.
they give you $30 or something like that to start off, so you have some change while you're waiting on tables and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that. So I came back and brought them like almost $2,000.
Wow.
And it was like, you could have walked out of here and not come back with this money, because these other folks, they are
gotcha.
not bringing in that kind of money.
Yeah.
So it was a good introduction to Atlanta and the club scene.
Okay.
But one particular night, after I had finished everything, was ready to go, took off my little money bag apron and put it on the table. And the owner of the club's wife said, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm finished for the evening." And she was sitting with 3 of her girlfriends. And I guess she felt like one of her workers were too close to her and her company. And she said, "Well, you need to go find something to do." And I took the apron and I gave it to her and I said, "You need to go find something to do.
Wow.
I'll see y'all later."
Wow.
I went around the corner to a club, went around 291's here, here, and here. So all I did was just go around the alley
Wow.
and go get another job.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
then I enrolled into a school to become a medical assistant.
Okay.
So I worked for the American Red Cross
Oh, wow.
for a number of years.
Okay.
And then I started working for a doctor as well.
Yeah. So you basically had to start from ground zero
Yeah.
and meet new people,
Mhm.
checking out the lay of the land.
Yeah,
and
but sometimes you draw people to
Gotcha.
you,
Yeah.
with your
Well, you had that
personality
kind of
or who you
Yeah.
are and this and
Yeah, I was
and
telling you in the people business. So yeah, no doubt.
and so before I know it, I was doing marketing and public relations stuff for
Gotcha.
Club 291. They're on their own now. They're good to go.
Yeah.
And then I end up over at a little special after hours spot.
Okay.
And I get this I get a phone call on the cell phone now, because we now have cell phones now. And George B. Johnson Jr.
Mm-hmm.
is on the phone, and he says they're looking for a radio announcer at Clark Atlanta University.
Was he living in Atlanta?
No, he was not.
So how did he find out about this?
He knew. Well, first of all, he's a jazz singer and he has recordings.
Okay.
So this is when they were getting rid of all of those announcers there,
Gotcha.
including the one who was doing the evening show. I started with the evening show.
Okay.
And so she called, they were having a conversation, and he found out that she was leaving and they were going to look for another announcer.
And he knew you was in Atlanta.
And he knew I was in
Gotcha.
Atlanta. So he called me.
Wow.
And he called me and he said, they're looking for a radio announcer. I was like, "George, really?" He's like, "Yeah, I told him that you're here." And then so I looked at all the faces in the room, and another lady by the name of Jackie. I said, "Jackie, so she heard the conversation. She said, 'Well, what do you know about radio? You work for the doctor's office in the American Red Cross. You can't. What do you know about?' Because
She
they've been
didn't-
around
yeah.
since like
Yeah.
1974. The
Yeah.
station's been around since
Yeah.
1974, and all of a sudden here it is 2006, and she want to know, well, what do you know about just walking up in here, because you knew in
Yeah.
here anyway?"
Uh-huh.
And I said, "Well, see, I have a history that some of you don't know about." And so I am a radio announcer,
Wow.
and I have been so in Washington, D.C. for about almost 20 years, from 1980 to
Yeah.
1997 when they
Yeah.
closed.
Yeah.
So I told her that, and she told me about the radio station in Clark Atlanta University, and at the time, I don't even know if I knew about Clark. To be honest, I don't even think I knew about Clark Atlanta University and the whole AU Center.
Yeah.
And so I went over there. I was like, oh, campus life again. Clark Atlanta
Wow.
University. And it was just a joy just knowing being in the AU Center with Morehouse and Spelman and Clark and the
Yeah.
interdenominational
Yeah.
school as well. And Morris Brown, they're back in stride again.
So did you so there was a period when you wasn't doing radio no more?
No, I would come back to DC, and sometimes I go over to WPFW
Oh, okay.
and just sit in and do a little
Okay.
something,
Gotcha.
or help with the fundraiser, or talk
Okay.
about fundraising and stuff.
So
So
you
I
stay
had
connected. You stay connected.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
beautiful. So you didn't have that, because like my man is Whitmore,
hmm
and it's like Whitmore just when that station ended, he it's like, unless he hung around the music, so we would see him, but I don't, he never, not on radio. Never seen him on radio, so.
Yeah.
But
Well, he's been doing his photography.
yeah, he
Yeah, and
picked
he
up
would
some,
show up some at the so it never felt like I was away from the entertainment side as well, because I would come back for the Mid-Atlantic Jazz Festival, come back and come to Tacoma Station and hang out. So I was still a part of it.
I got
And
you.
people still recognize that, me for being in the music industry.
So, the radio station is called WCLK Radio. And your show is what's the name of your show?
My show now is Midday Jazz.
Midday Jazz.
Yeah.
And you're on from
10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
10 a.m. to go ahead.
10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday, the Midday Jazz Show. And it is the #1 show on WCLK.
Say that again.
It is the #1 show on WCLK.
Wow.
91.9.
So did you, now what has the experience been like? And how long have you been at WCLK at this point?
It is now 18 years.
Wow.
I didn't think I was going to be there for 18 minutes, 18 days, 18 weeks.
So you're a veteran in the game now.
I was when I got there.
Yeah. So what has the experience been like? Is it similar to what you had when you was coming up?
It is very much similar.
Okay.
So similar, sometimes I forget where I am.
Wow.
It is that very much, because when I walked into the door day one, I thought someone was going to give me orientation, and there was nobody there.
Wow.
There's no one there. And I said, okay, I got this. I came on right after the person, because I was doing the evening show then. So I came right on after the person who was on the air before me. And so it was called Jazz at Sundown when I first came there from 7 to 10. And so I was like, okay, I got this. And I just looked at the board, put a record on, because we were doing also records during that time, and CDs. And I just rolled with it. And
so what makes Gwen Redding that one when it comes to jazz radio? I mean, I'm not going to say what separates you from, but what is it about you? You say your show is #1. That means you're doing something right. What do you think that right is?
Well, I'm in the top 20.
Okay.
And I'm #1 on WCLK.
Okay.
And what makes it?
You're doing something right. What do you think that is?
Right.
Is it the way you connect with the people? What is it that makes that happen for you?
I feel that when I'm playing music on the radio, I'm giving the people what they want.
Okay.
What they want to hear.
Gotcha.
And what they like to hear.
Yeah.
And what's pleasing to the ear.
Yeah.
And sometimes, maybe some people don't pay attention to that.
Gotcha.
And sometimes I don't want to play a song, Here's That Rainy Day, when it's bright and sunny outside.
Okay. So you're very strategic.
So you have to have a strategic plan on how one song follows another.
Gotcha.
And sometimes someone could call up and request a song, and that might inspire me to get into a whole groove or something I hadn't even
Yeah.
planned. So it's kind of improvised
Yeah.
for that day. Or sometimes it might be the way I'm feeling. And I present the program that way. Now, when I'm on a real high, the music is like really swinging, that, everything is grooving and swinging. I like that Art Blakey. I'm all into that Art Blakey Cannonball. I Am That Person, Wayne Shorter, Lee Morgan, all that Marshall Keys introduced me to.
Yeah.
I'm free. That free makes me feel free.
Yeah.
And when they say music is healing,
Yeah.
it is.
So have you collected a lot of recordings from people that want you to play their music on radio over the years? That's a rhetorical question.
There is so much music out there because you have the entire world
Yeah.
to deal with, not just Atlanta. It's the entire world.
Yeah.
And you're constantly I took a picture one day of the program director and the music that he was surrounded by. Put it on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I said, see what the program director has to go through.
Wow. Yeah.
To be able to get to you.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you how soon your music will be on the radio.
Yeah. Wow.
And not every, and sometimes you have to say, I'll play this. I'll play you one. At least I'll play you once.
Yeah, gotcha.
I can't say how frequently because it's not. Sometimes it's not always the best quality of music.
I got you.
And some of the worst music out there, to me, is that something about a squealing saxophone that just is not going anywhere. Not saying nothing. You can't feel anything from it.
Are you into avant-garde jazz?
If it's Don Pullen.
Okay.
Cecil Taylor, Don Cherry.
That's about as avant-garde you can get.
Yeah.
Cecil Taylor?
On that Coleman.
I could deal with it. Yeah, on that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But not a whole lot. I'm not going to be that person who's going to.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I'm going to. Well, I did go see Don Pullen, but I also interviewed Don Pullen.
Okay.
And avant-garde is good for the people who love avant-garde.
Gotcha. Yeah. So we almost at the end. I want to ask you, where do you see? How do you see the state of jazz? I'm talking about straight ahead. I know we got the smooth jazz, and I'm talking about rough jazz. How do you? We were talking about clubs and stuff when we come here and lack thereof. There's a lot of talent out here, for sure.
Oh yeah.
I know in my time, the music industry has changed. Used to have record companies, used to be cats signed to labels, and it's just the whole. Now you got this. I don't even know how people make money in music anymore. Like now you go, you got to have so many views and all this. But how are you perceiving the state of jazz?
It's very simple. I use the words of Dizzy Gillespie.
Huh?
I'll use the words of Dizzy Gillespie.
Come on.
Just play the music.
Just play the music. Okay.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, just play the music.
Yeah.
Because the music has never really changed.
Okay.
The industry has really not changed as far as that much, as far as performances and getting your music out there and trying to get played. I just say people just try and even for me, just try and do the very best.
Are you hearing good quality new music, new jazz?
Oh yeah, there's some good new music out there, and of course,
because now everybody's mixing it up with, it's become this hodgepodge of,
Well, let's just put it this way: we can't be all smooth.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I got you.
I will say all smooth gets pretty damn boring. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got to have that mix of straight ahead jazz to be authentic.
Gotcha.
To be an authentic jazz radio station.
Okay.
So WCLK at 50, in order to really be an authentic jazz radio station, you have to mix it. You have to blend it. It's the genres. It's the cool. It's the smooth. It's the bebop. It's the hip hop with the jazz, and
gotcha.
So the young and the old, and there's a jazz scene out there that has some wonderful young women playing jazz as well as some
Yes.
men, and I can start talking about them: the Kamasi Washingtons and the
Oh,
Theo
yeah.
Crokers,
Come on.
and Samara Joyce and Lakeisha Benjamin.
All right now.
You hear me?
Now,
And then wait a second. Also, the people who don't have records out there, who contribute to the jazz scene.
no doubt about it. Since we're talking about WCLK Radio, I know you mentioned y'all have a the fundraising season is coming up. Talk to the people. Tell them to get ready.
Get ready for the fall membership campaign, people, because in order for us to continue to play you and present you great jazz all around the world on WCLK.com, because we're a global radio station.
All
okay.
Right.
So we need you to donate. We need you to contribute. And all you have to do, and you can contribute any amount you choose, because there are people who have donated $1 because that's all they had, because they wanted to give something. There are people who are senior citizens who have called up and said, well, I'm on a fixed income, but I have set aside a certain amount to contribute to WCLK. Then there are people who have thousands of dollars. I was one lady, Gwendolyn Sun Moon Harper. Thank you so much for that $1,000 contribution that helped me reach my goal.
Yes.
We have goals each day that we would like to try and meet to raise money for the radio station.
When does that start?
That starts October 1st.
October the 1st. And how long does that go?
It's going to go for 7 days. We used to go for about 10, 11, 12, 14 days, 2 weeks, 21 days, a whole entire month. But fundraising, let me just tell you, it's every day.
Gotcha.
Because every day that I'm on the radio, I ask people to contribute to make sure that there remains a home for jazz.
So people can contribute throughout the year.
Of course.
Okay, beautiful. But October the 1st.
And that's it.
That's the drive.
Yeah.
All right. We just want to give y'all some love. And, that.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes.
WCLK.com. Click on the donate button in the upper right-hand corner.
No doubt. Now, so if I wanted to donate, could I say, okay, I'm donating on behalf of Gwen Redding? Or I just donate?
Rivablue.
Oh, Riva. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Rivablue.
Yeah.
That's what I would do, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. On our program, they will write a note.
Okay.
And let us know that this goes to the Midday Jazz Show.
Beautiful. All right. I'm gonna see how much I got in the bank.
Yeah, I'm gonna pat you down. I know, because I see you on the right side. You're fat on the right side than on the left side. So
that's my key. That's my car keys.
The money, honey. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So we almost done here. Now you have a performance coming up at Tacoma Station.
Yes.
And I didn't know you would sneak back in town. I mean, it ain't like you call and say, I'm in town, but that's all right. That's okay. But to me it's ironic because when I came in town back in the late 80s, you were the face of Tacoma Station in terms of I know you would introduce the bands or
booking the bands. Yeah.
And now you coming back to perform and lead a band.
You know what?
Come on, talk to the people.
Some people wait a lifetime for a moment like this. And this is just what I've been waiting for.
Wow.
To be able to, and people have told me that you're more than good enough. Just go ahead and do you.
Yeah.
So now I hear Joe Williams in my head saying, stop thinking about it and just do it.
Okay.
That's what he told me.
That's all you got to do. And it's Sunday?
It's Sunday, September 29th. That's tomorrow. At Tacoma Station Tavern from 6 until 9 p.m.
All right, y'all better get on out there and check me. I may come through.
I hope you do.
Okay, yeah.
Don't come. You must bring your horn.
Why can't I just come to listen? Sometimes we just want, I want to come listen.
Well, okay, then fine. But if you feel it, just make sure you have your saxophone in the trunk just in case.
Okay.
Because I might want to do Black Nile and I might need to hear some more horns.
All right.
Hey, come along with me to the river running free.
Yeah.
It's known as the Black Nile.
All right.
Yeah, Doug Karn got me to sing that song. Well, he made me rehearse the song for a gig that we were doing in Jacksonville. And then he didn't even call the song. I was like, I did all that rehearsing and work on that song.
It happens like this sometimes.
I know. Sorry, we've run out of time.
I got 2 more questions.
What is that?
Okay. What's the next chapter for Rivablue?
I have this thing about beaches and going to different places and finding out. When I went home to New Jersey, and I walked along the boardwalk, and I saw the different changes, and I saw the people and the food and everything, and there was a band playing on the beach, and that was nice, but it was kind of country rock and roll stuff that they were doing, and it was cool, but people were enjoying it.
Okay.
I want to visit some beaches where might be some jazz playing on the inside some of the clubs, like when. That's another little story I'll get to, but. Where there's music and jazz and the beach, and I want to see what that scene might feel like, and I want to go to visit a beach. I'm going to Fort Lauderdale in October, and I'm going to see what that's like.
Okay,
I'm going to check out the beach.
I know what I wanted to ask you. Did you find that for people who've known you as a radio personality, when you began like gigging and singing, did you have to win them over to, or it was just you just did it?
I didn't try.
You did it
to win them over.
Okay.
I just wanted to do what I was feeling.
Gotcha.
And over time, also in Atlanta, I want to thank the Harper family, Danny Harper and his wife Terry Harper and Terrence Harper, and they have the son Deshaun Harper, who's a wonderful bass player. So it's another family of great musicians who helped me along the way, and also said, continue to do it. A drummer by the name of Bernard Lynette, he was very instrumental in telling me to go ahead, keep doing it. We're working on this, go to more jam sessions, and I would go to their house, the Harper family, and Danny would be working on some songs and showing me some keys and stuff like that to work in. So that's singing is really what I really want to do, and have a good time doing it. So people, if they accept me, that's good. I haven't heard anyone say yet, you know what, maybe you need to find another career.
Okay.
I haven't heard that yet. They want more.
Okay. Yeah.
They want more
Beautiful.
of me.
Beautiful. Okay.
That's what I know.
Beautiful. Well, then you're doing something right.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got to give a shout out to some people from Atlanta. My man Kebby.
Yes. Kebby Williams.
Kebby Williams. Got to give you a shout out. I remember when he came in. I remember the day he auditioned for the jazz ensemble. My man Zach Warm Daddy Grady. Yeah, the old soul.
Let me tell you, Zach Grady must be one of the most soulful saxophonists
man.
on the planet. He's got this thing.
He got big sound.
I don't know if he reminds me of Lester Young.
That's his dude.
And
that's his name.
And I feel it. I feel it. You can feel it in him. And I just want to say I could take a saxophone player like that, and we could just do some great things together.
Oh yeah, no doubt about
musically.
All right now. Russell Gunn, my man Russell Gunn.
He sounds so sweet.
Yeah.
During the Mid-Atlantic Jazz Festival, and the Baylor Project was performing. I didn't know it was him, but I heard the most beautiful trumpet playing on one of those songs, and I was like, who is that? Because I was way in the back, and I couldn't see him because the stage was so full. And then after the Baylor Project came off stage, and I went back around into the green room, and I was like, Russell, that was you. Oh,
beautiful. Yeah.
I told him how beautiful he sounds. He sounds so sweet.
I have him on my last album. It's a funk album. I got him and Roy Hargrove.
Oh, and there's a reason why I don't have it. See, so the problem is that's the problem right now. What I'm trying to tell you.
I think I got a good enough excuse. I put it out digitally. As digital, it's out there.
Yeah, okay.
But I make sure you get it. But he took this solo on one of these songs that I wrote. It's a funk funk kind of.
Well, I need it right away.
Yeah. And,
I need to hear it.
Yeah, it's called Planetary.
Okay.
And I think this is one of the last recordings that Roy did. I got Roy on about 3 tracks.
Mm-hmm.
But Russell took this solo, and it's just killing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just shout out to my man Russell Gunn.
Yeah, I think he went to Egypt and some things changed him or influenced his music, his style of playing.
He's a wonderful musician.
Yeah, he has the Royal Crunk Jazz Orchestra.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he's not on the road with people like Marcus Miller and doing
he reminds me
things.
of a Roy. He's in that space with Roy. They got that natural, got that, that thing.
Yeah.
You can't explain it, but it's there.
And I used to love Roy when he started to sing too. I was like, oh, go ahead,
September
Roy.
in the Rain.
Go ahead and sing that song. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's my man.
Mm-hmm.
Last question. And you can look right in the camera. How can people contact you? They want to find out what you're doing, even with the station. So how can they get in touch with you? Yeah.
Well, my life is on social media. So definitely Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, Pinterest, Threads now, and of course WCLK.com, and my email is gredding612@gmail if you need to send me an email because you have a new release or you have some music or you want to interview and you want to talk about yourself and what you're doing and where you're going and where your music is going. You can contact me. And it's very easy. You can use Gwen Redding, but Gwen Redding is also AKA Rivablue, and Branford Marsalis got on me about that. He said, "Who?"
He said what?
He said, "Who?" On the air. He said, "This ain't nothing but Gwen Redding." It's like, Branford, did you have to really shout me out like that?
That's funny.
Yeah, that's Branford.
Oh, yeah, he's straight laced. Yeah,
straightforward.
Straight, no chase, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Anyway, I was thinking, should I end this by saying Rivablue? But I know I've known you all these years as Gwen Redding, but we're going to find a way to make it work.
Yes.
Anyway, I want to thank you for sharing this time and your stories and experiences. We could probably go on. Forever.
Well, we can do part 2.
Yeah. But I'm glad we got part 1
down
because I've certainly learned some things that I didn't know. And I think it's important for people to know, the history that goes into making you who you are. Like when you start talking about, I saw Dexter and Sarah Vaughn. That means you the real deal. You ain't just talking. You've been in this thing,
right?
So so that's important for us to know and people to know.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for sharing that information with us on a Conversation in Jazz. So I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
And yes, no doubt about it. It was just a matter of time.
Okay.
All right. Well, there it is. The one and only, the lovely Miss Gwen Redding, a.k.a. Rivablue, right here on A Conversation in Jazz. And we'll see you on the next one.
Hi, I'm Rivablue, your host for Midday Jazz on 91.9 FM WCLK. And Jazz 91.9 is supported by listeners who become members. Support WCLK, become a member today. Go online to our website at WCLK.com. And thank you so much for your support.